One of these movies tested so well that its own star got jealous and buried the best cut forever. Another one bankrupted the most successful director in Hollywood for a decade. None of these films are famous. All of them are incredible. And I'm betting you haven't seen a single one. There's this brilliant brain surgeon, played by Steve Martin, who marries Kathleen Turner. She turns out to be an awful gold digger who's just after his money, and then he meets a brain, just a brain, floating in a jar, that can talk to him telepathically. And he falls in love with it. Martin co-wrote it with Carl Reiner, who directed. And before they started production, Martin had this idea about who should helm it. He'd just watched Scanners, that horror movie where people's heads detonate, and decided the director of that film would be perfect for this comedy about jar brains. So Martin approached David Cronenberg. Cronenberg was in the middle of making Videodrome and had absolutely no desire to direct a comedy, so he said no thanks. They made it anyway, and Martin's performance is completely wild, unlike anything else he ever did. It's genuinely funny, this weird mix of screwball comedy and dark humor. But audiences didn't show up, and the movie flopped at the box office. In the UK, they skipped theaters entirely and dumped it on video. Something broke in Martin after that. He'd been doing these anarchic, unpredictable comedies, and after Two Brains bombed, he just stopped. Shifted to safer, more mainstream stuff like Parenthood and Father of the Bride. One flop ended an entire era of his work. Brian De Palma's making a new thriller, and he's got this vision. He wants real, unsimulated sex scenes in it, not the fake Hollywood stuff. He also wants to cast someone from adult films in the lead. The studio immediately says no to both. So he makes a different version. It's about an actor, Craig Wasson, who's dealing with claustrophobia and unemployment. He agrees to house sit for someone, and through the window, he starts watching a woman across the way. Then he witnesses what he thinks is her murder, and he gets pulled into this whole twisted conspiracy. Melanie Griffith's in it, and visually it's stunning, very De Palma and very Hitchcock-influenced. But Columbia Pictures got nervous. They screened it for an audience in Van Nuys, and the response was weak. So De Palma and the studio agreed to terminate their multi-picture contract before Body Double even hit theaters. And then they made one final terrible decision about the release date. They put it out the same day The Terminator opened. Body Double earned less than $9 million. The Terminator became a phenomenon and launched an entire franchise. De Palma's movie was dead on arrival. Charlie Sheen plays a mysterious stranger who rolls into town with a futuristic black Dodge Charger. There's a gang of street racers led by Nick Cassavetes who've been terrorizing the area, and Sheen challenges them one by one to races. Turns out he's actually a guy they killed, come back from the dead for revenge. It's basically a supernatural revenge movie crossed with street racing. The car chases are all practical. Real stunt drivers, actual vehicles getting totaled, no digital effects. The whole thing is goofy as hell, but the action sequences are legitimately well executed. While they were shooting one of those car chases on a mountain highway outside Tucson, the camera truck lost control and flipped. Bruce Ingram, who was working as assistant cameraman, was killed. 7 other crew members were critically injured. They finished the movie anyway. It came out in 1986, made almost nothing at the box office, and basically disappeared. You can still find it if you look, but most people have never heard of it. This started as a completely different project. The original script was written as French Connection 3. Gene Hackman was going to play Doyle again, and they wanted Richard Pryor as his partner. Hackman passed. Fox sold the whole thing to Universal, who gutted it and turned it into a standalone cop thriller with Sylvester Stallone and Billy D. Williams chasing a European terrorist. The terrorist is Rutger Hauer, and he's planning attacks across New York City. Hauer's magnetic in this. Every scene he's in, he dominates it. Stallone and Williams are solid, but Hauer's on another level. This came out after Rocky, but before First Blood, when Stallone was still figuring out his action star persona. When they finished shooting, the editors put together different versions. One focused on Stallone's character and his emotional journey. Another gave Rutger Hauer more screen time. They tested both with preview audiences, and people responded better to the version with more Hauer. Stallone had producer credit. He made sure that cut never saw release. The version that tested better has been lost or destroyed. Nobody's seen it since. Richard Franklin met Alfred Hitchcock, became friends with him, then went back to Australia and started his directing career making softcore films. Eventually, he decided to make something more ambitious. Roadgames is about a truck driver named Pat Quid, played by Stacy Keach, who's hauling cargo across the Australian outback. He starts noticing this green van that keeps appearing, and he becomes convinced the driver is a serial killer targeting women. Jamie Lee Curtis plays a hitchhiker who joins him, and together they try to track down the killer while also becoming suspects themselves. It's tense, really well-executed suspense. Long stretches of empty highway, paranoia building, very much in that Hitchcock style Franklin loved. Critics saw it and praised it. And because of Roadgames, Franklin got hired to direct Psycho 2, the sequel to Hitchcock's masterpiece. He went from making to directing the follow-up to one of the most iconic horror films ever made. But Roadgames itself never found a wide audience. Arrow Video put out a nice Blu-ray, but most people have no idea it exists. Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines as action heroes. That's the pitch. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. Those don't sound like action hero names. But somehow they pulled it off. Running Scared is this buddy cop movie that came out in 1986, right in the middle of that whole buddy cop explosion. It's not Lethal Weapon, it's not 48 Hours, but it holds its own against those films. Crystal and Hines play wisecracking Chicago cops who are totally burned out. They're planning to retire to Florida and open a bar, but first they've got to take down some drug kingpin. The whole movie is them running around Chicago cracking jokes while bullets are flying, and somehow it works because their chemistry is just off the charts. Here's the thing though, the script was originally written for Gene Hackman and Paul Newman. Those are the guys they wanted. When that didn't happen, they offered it to Tom Selleck and John Travolta. Selleck turned it down because he was doing Magnum P.I. So Crystal and Hines was actually the fourth option. Nobody asked for that combination. It just happened because everyone else said no. The movie's basically been forgotten now because Running Scared is such a generic title that it gets mixed up with other films, but if you're into those 80s buddy cop movies, this one's worth tracking down. This French film from 1983 feels like Hitchcock directed a Tinto Brass movie. A beautiful young woman shows up in a small village looking for work as a teacher. Every guy in town immediately wants her, including this firefighter whose nickname is Ping Pong. She's using her looks to manipulate these men, and it becomes clear pretty quickly that she's got secrets and an agenda. Ping Pong becomes her tool for getting revenge on someone, though the movie takes its time revealing what that's all about. Isabelle Adjani plays the lead, and she's incredible in it. But she almost didn't do the film at all. When they offered her the role, she said no because she was afraid her parents would see her naked. They hired another actress. Her partner at the time convinced her into taking the role back, and she ended up winning the César Award for Best Actress for it, the most iconic performance of her career, and she almost didn't do it because she didn't want her mom and dad to see her without clothes on. Francis Ford Coppola just came off Apocalypse Now. He'd made The Godfather, and he decided his next project would be a breezy romantic musical. Except it wasn't breezy at all. It follows a working-class couple on the 4th of July as their relationship falls apart. He meets a circus performer, she meets a lounge singer, they try spending the night with other people, but it just doesn't work out for anyone. Coppola self-financed it through his own Zoetrope Studios so he could keep creative control. The budget exploded to $26 million. The movie came out and made less than $700,000 at the box office. That's a 98% loss. It cost more to make than Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it earned back $636,000. Coppola was broke for the next decade. Critics destroyed it when it came out, and for a long time it was just known as that bomb Coppola made. But over the years, people started going back to it, especially after a restored version came out recently. And the thing is, whatever you think of the story, the craft is undeniable. It looks absolutely stunning. Terry Garr and Frederick Forrest are great in it. If you loved La La Land, you should watch this because it definitely borrowed from it. This movie only exists because Chuck Norris couldn't be bothered. It was originally written as a sequel to Invasion USA with Norris playing Matt Hunter again. Norris showed zero interest, so they rewrote the role younger and gave it to Michael Dudikoff instead. Cannon Films was trying to make Michael their next action star, the heir to Chuck Norris and Charles Bronson. They'd put him in American Ninja and were building him up as their poster boy. Avenging Force is probably his best film. It's one of those most dangerous game hunting movies, but nastier than most. Michael plays Matt Hunter, a retired Secret Service agent living in Louisiana. His old friend is a black politician running for Senate, and this group of rich white supremacists decides they want him dead. They're part of this secret society called Pentangle that hunts people for sport. The first half builds the threat. These guys are organized, they're powerful, they're genuinely dangerous. Then the second half becomes a survival film, where they're hunting Matt and his friend's family through the Louisiana swamps. It's got some great action set pieces, and Dudikoff's a likable hero. Too bad nobody remembers it now. A young opera singer gets the lead role in a production of Macbeth after the original star has an accident. She starts being stalked by someone who forces her to watch while he murders people. He tapes needles under her eyes so she can't look away. Dario Argento built the film around a production of Verdi's Macbeth, which is historically one of the most cursed works in all of theater. Opera people genuinely believe it brings bad luck. Argento was told to pick a different opera. He refused. During filming, actor Ian Charleson, who'd been in Gandhi and Chariots of Fire, told Argento he was HIV positive. Charleson died of AIDS in 1990. Equipment failures, accidents on set, and then one of the actors actually died during production. Eventually, even Argento started believing the Macbeth curse had hit his film. Opera is probably Argento's last truly great movie. It capped off a strong decade for him where he was at his stylistic peak. If you're into horror at all, especially Italian horror, this one's essential.